Andrew Cussons, who I consider a good friend and I've known Andrew for over 15 years now. Andrew, to me, is a real maven, a man who's curious in all manners, and he takes his curiosity and he funnels it into business. So in that process, Andrew Cussons is a business coach. He has been now for a number of years. Originally worked with companies like Deloitte's, and one of the words that I'd use to describe Andrew is pioneer. He's always pushing in to some new venture. So he's in the dot-com area, is taking companies through that. He's working now with companies and with individuals who are looking for breakthrough, and everything that he reads, he analyzes, he studies, and Andrew is Mr. Action. So Andrew is today going to talk to us or tell us something about resilience in business and what it takes to be a resilient business owner and what it takes to be a resilient business. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Johnson. It's a pleasure to be here, even remotely in these strange online times, but it's great to see you again.
Yeah. So Andrew, from your perspective, can you tell me what the reality of resilience looks like?
For me, resilience really starts with your journey through life, and I'd summarize it. It's about awareness. It's about awareness of how things actually work and what is required in business. And it's very much about the environment we put ourselves in, our physical environment, the people we associate environment, our workspace and environment, and what are the influences on our life. Because if I look back to books in history like the Greek Stoics or the Bible, or people fundamentally haven't changed. The world's changed enormously.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been a journey around understanding human nature better and how business works, because people coming out of schools are totally ill-equipped to be running their own business. They're basically still taught how to be good employees. So we're preparing people for a world that doesn't exist to a degree. And certainly since COVID, there's been an explosion in the UK of new startup small businesses. It's something like nearly 900,000 businesses in last year was set up in the UK. So there's this huge hunger to be in business, but they're ill-equipped.
And so what's some of the characteristics of somebody who's employee-minded versus owner-minded?
That's a great question, and it's really a journey. I use a model, and you can look it up, called the identity iceberg, where we only see, let's say, 10% of a person. We only see their behavior and their results. So in order to make that journey from employee to business owner, there's usually a step in between, and that's usually the step from employee to self-employed. So when you're employed, and you read up Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad's really good on this, that journey from having a job to actually owning a job. And one of the key issues is when you're employed, you often don't realize all the benefits you get and the security and safety around you. And once you're self-employed, then there's a lot of skills you need to start learning. I'll come back to the iceberg in a minute, but you need to know and understand marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing to me is the Wild West, and 80% of what you do in that space won't work. And that can be very difficult to handle if you don't know what you're doing. And another key area is sales. How to sell, how to position your product, service, how to communicate value. Another area is finance. all the bookkeeping, finance, financial forecasting, and other areas, leadership and management. So one of the hardest areas for people who start their own business self-employed is if you imagine stretch out your hands, you'll find you want to hold on to everything in the business.
Yeah.
And the biggest cause of business failure is not lack of hard work, it's burnout. Because all of a sudden, your business needs all these skills. There's a great little book called Soar with Your Strengths. I recommend you read, because you will have certain skills, and we're all created uniquely for me in God's image, and there'll be certain things you feel in flow about that you really should focus for yourself. However, your business needs other skills that your business will need to hire people in to help you, and don't try and do it all yourself. It's rather like the analogy in the book is a rabbit goes to school, and on day one in school they have running lessons. He thinks it's great. Day two they have running lessons. Day three they have swimming lessons. And he doesn't like swimming lessons. At the end of day three they say, you're not very good at swimming, you need extra swimming lessons. Stop running. So in your business, if you can get this picture, if you're the rabbit, make sure you're running, make sure the fish are swimming, make sure the birds are flying. I think that's a really, really good analogy.
It is, yeah, it's fantastic. So that sort of ties in with, to me, concepts of idealism versus realism in the marketplace. So
yes,
my idealistic kind of mindset would be saying, yeah, of course I can swim while I'm a rabbit. And by the way, would you like to see my wings? But in the real world, come on, there's no way, Johnson, you can do all of these things. But so how do you, as from the startup, okay, you've got the one-man band, you've got the group of three who you started with, you've got, let's say you got to a certain level now, and you've got a team of 15. How does that relate to kind of like the resilience piece where you've got beyond the first few years?
Well, it's really interesting. So I like my ideal clients have got to be in business from 3 years, for at least 3 years. I think a key thing, even if you look at very big businesses, they've usually been started by one individual.
Right.
Even the global corporations. So I think it's really, really important that you hold on to and are really clear on why you're doing your business. And if your heart's not in it, I'd suggest you go and get a job. And so if you imagine you have lots of problems in life don't go away, whatever you're doing. But if your problems are there, but your vision's small, if you're looking, all you'll see is your problems. But if your vision's really big, the problems won't go away, but you'll be able to overcome them. It's a bit like if you're in business, you're at the start of a 100-meter hurdle, you know there will be a load of hurdles, but you keep your eye on the end game. Yeah. And if you don't like dealing with problems every day, don't go into business. Go and get a job. Seriously, this will save you a lot of stress. So
yeah.
And there's a great Simon Sinek on the internet, and the power of why. So most businesses go, this is what we do, this is how we do it, but it's that why that carries business forward, and it's that why as you scale and grow it's a key issue for business. How do we keep that entrepreneurial passion and heart as we grow? And I call it, what I do, heart transplant coaching. So I've got to help the founder rediscover often their mojo, their heart, then be able to communicate that into their team and the marketplace. Then you will start to attract really great people. And I have a client at the moment who's in archaeology who's scaled from 26 to 80 people this year, because they're buying into his passion and what they're wanting to do for not themselves and not only themselves, but for the wider community. So I think it's really important and becoming more and more important. Deloitte's did a global survey where community impact is becoming, and environment is becoming, a much, much bigger issue. And certainly younger people of wanting to work with companies and owners who are authentic and real and care for not only themselves and their team, but also the environment. And that's a big issue with young people.
Yeah, huge, absolutely. So
Yeah.
that idea of the why being the lens or the thing that you've got to keep in focus when everything else seems to be shifting.
Yes.
So if you lose what I hear you saying is you lose track of the why, then it becomes hugely chaotic within the environment of your company.
Yes, I think also in resilience, you have to have or develop an attitude of learning and knowledge. So every day you'll get, was that a success or was it a lesson? What lesson do I need to learn? And we have I love the idea of be a person, we call it above the point, take ownership, be accountable and accept responsibility. Those are really three great things. And look to avoid blame, excuses and denial. And if you can just having that awareness. So those 6 points there, I'd suggest anybody listening are worth £1 million to your business if you apply them in your life.
Yeah. And yeah.
We say it for many of us, myself, we are human beings, so we're not machines, but somebody, anybody and nobody works for every business in the world. So we try to minimize their impact.
Don't try and minimize their impact.
No, people blame. Somebody should have done that. Anybody could have done that. Nobody. So those people are everywhere. We need to take accountability. That's mine. I dropped the ball there. I will fix it.
So just unpack that a bit more for me. When you say that, it's like, okay, just tie that back into feedback. So feedback to me is one, you're talking about attitude towards feedback. What can I learn from the feedback that I receive? But is there another level that I wonder where instead of me receiving feedback from you, me reaching out for feedback? So it's like having antenna that go out saying, what is the feedback I'm getting? And finding the right feedback or even asking the right questions to get the right feedback.
Yes, I like Marshall Goldsmith's model. You check him out on the internet. Marshall Goldsmith talks about feed forward. So let's keep our development looking forward. So in my past, I've played hockey and I played county hockey. And on the pitch, the accountability is not really to the crowd or the manager or the coach. As a player, it's to your teammates. That's where the rubber really hits the road. And that's why using in your team 360 feedback, where you're getting feedback from your teammates, and you can't really ignore that. So when I'm coaching an executive, I base on 360 feedback, and then I work with the executive or the business owner, and we score it every 3 months. And the progress of the coaching is based on the scores from your peers on the pitch.
So that sounds like, well, there's no hiding there because it's there in black and white. It's in front of you.
Yes. Now the sorting out's done off the pitch with the coach and the manager. So after Man U got hammered 5-0 by Liverpool, I'm sure there was a few off the pitch discussions. I just thought it was interesting as a sports person. But you don't want to let your teammates down.
Yeah.
And the idea, if the owner, the founder, has communicated his passion and set the rules of the game, this is how we do it here, because everybody coming into a business will have ideas from their other business. So we need that strong leadership, and you need to have that common goal, and that goal for the business is often a goal, but it's not common. Nobody knows about it. To really publish that, get people involved. then you've got to have some rules of the game. What game are we playing? What are our rules here on this pitch? And that's the leader's job. So you have to develop your identity into becoming a leader. And then, do we have an action plan? Do we have a plan? We're a big fan of 90-day plans. Have a 13-week plan. Have a daily plan. And then, do you support risk taking? And this is a big one nowadays, because in the past, it's been very much in the last centuries, it was a command and control structure. But that doesn't work anymore. So you've got to support and encourage risk taking, but within a boundary. And so you develop this culture, we're all playing soccer, or, well, actually these three are playing lacrosse and these playing rugby league, or she. So and the leader has to grow. And a key thing is to get learn to get results through other people. And that's one of the biggest jumps for the entrepreneur. You think nobody can do it as well as you can. And if I have to do it properly, I have to do it myself. And you end up running around in circles, being the lowest paid person in the company.
Yeah.
You've not learned you've got to learn to trust yourself and then to trust your team.
So that word keeps coming through. Two words to me. One is team and the other is community. So your team around you is the success engine.
Yes.
And when I think about it in terms of psychology of saying, well, am I secure enough to let go of control? Can I trust other people? What happens if I give you the ball and you drop it? All these sort of questions that are based on individuals, but hugely linked to the community that surrounds you.
Yes. And I'd suggest daily habits.
Right.
And the practicing. So some years ago, the coach showed me he got a playbook of how Barcelona train their players. And it looks on the pitch very natural, it flows. However, back in the training room, it was zonal. You're in this bit of the pitch. When you receive the ball here, you've got three options. You pass it there, there, or there. When you're there, so everything was drilled down to the smallest detail and practiced. And we all go through that 4 levels of learning. We start with level 1. I don't know what I don't know. That's a great place to be, because there's no responsibility. But then in terms of being a leader or developing a skill, then you become consciously incompetent. That's level 2. You're aware you're not very good. Then you have to make a decision. Do I want to develop this skill? So that takes determination, practice, effort, and feedback. And then you become consciously competent. It's a bit like when you're learning to drive a manual car. When you first get in, you go, 2 feet and 3 pedals, no chance. And then you start looking at the gear shift when you're changing, and there's all these other things. But you keep practicing, and then it becomes easy. So at that level 4, it's that unconscious competence. And that's where you want to be, because when you're at that level, it's taking less energy to do things. You develop a flow for it.
So as you're speaking, the thing that comes to my mind, so one of the words is habit, and the habit of developing a habit of constantly learning, constantly being curious about, not taking one way of saying it's not taking for granted that 1 + 1 = 2. So we made increased profit of 20%, and this is the reason why. Where it may not be, that's the reason why you've made the profit that you've made this quarter. So it's about the attitude of the learning attitude, the habits around learning and that.
I think too many business owners focus on the result, but the end result is determined by the steps and the processes on the way. So we have a great model we use for developing sales, marketing, cash flows called the 5 ways. So most people know how many customers they have, what their sales is and what their profit is, and they focus on that. But that's a bit of an illusion, because you need to be focusing on, number one, your marketing plan and lead generation, which you can work on, and secondly, your sales process or conversion rate. So if you develop your skills in that area, so you'll sell more, you'll sell to more people who inquire. Thirdly, your average sale value. And if you start measuring these things and working on them in your plan, you'll find things transform. Then the number of transactions, the number of times people come back, and finally your margin. So we get clients focusing on all 5 of those areas, then the customer sales and profit are a result of that.
Right. So
if you set your plan out step by step and make sure there's ownership, accountability and responsibility, good communication and support, and just execute on that. My friend Richard, who was on the board of Asda, became MD of Boots and then chairman of Whitbread, said the strategy is, in the sense, is the easy bit. 95% of your success is in the execution.
Yeah. But also execution of the right priorities.
Yes, yes. I always think in business, for a manager role focuses on time, quality and price. The leader's role is to focus on the people. And Michael Gerber, in his excellent book, I recommend it for all the small businesses, The E-Myth, says we have 3 roles. We have a technician, that's the doing of the doing, the thing we like, the manager and the entrepreneur. And most people, when they're starting up, focus too much on the technician. They need to develop the entrepreneur in them and the manager to manage the resources.
And I guess that the difficulty in that is that sometimes one person is not ideally suited to be either the manager or the vision carrier. Yeah,
that's why it's a great idea to get some people around you, whether they're in your business or just you meet up once a month, get fresh input and fresh ideas. And I think the Stoics, the Greek philosophy, was really interesting. They used to say, well, you have an ideal outcome for any situation. That's what you want to happen. But before you go into, always consider what might actually happen.
Yep.
So you're never surprised. And that's why I noticed top business people are never shocked, because they've thought of all the scenarios. Clive Woodward, the rugby coach, calls them teacup sessions, which listeners might find helpful. Thinking correctly under pressure. Make sure you build those into your monthly routine. Let's have an hour on teacup. Let's think of scenarios that might happen and how will we handle them. Then when it does happen, you're kind of prepared. There's nothing worse than being on the pitch and getting a total shock.
Yeah.
That you weren't expecting, like Jonah Lomu appears.
How do we deal with, yes, how did you deal with that big guy when I'm...
Three of you. Yeah. Don't be shocked when Goliath walks down the valley.
Yeah. But so just to segue a little bit, I'm thinking that presently you've got a business and it needs to be resilient. But a resilient business is dependent on resilient employees or resilient associates.
Yeah, yeah.
And where we in Momentum are saying, well, yeah, a lot of the talk or the headlines is about businesses resourcing your workforce, be it in areas of mental or physical or financial well-being. But in practical terms now, how does that work for a small organization?
Well,
is that possible?
I think it starts with awareness for the owner. So a simple model that listeners might like is BE multiplied by do equals have.
Yeah.
Just take that. So decide what it is. Your business isn't your life, I'd suggest. Your business is a vehicle to give you the life you want to live. So what we help people do is build a systemized, scalable business that actually works without them. However, let's assume, typical example in a smallish business, I want to have a lifestyle. usually a 5-bedroom house in the country and holiday home, and it's usually worth about 2 million, let's say. That's where we start out with a small business. So if that's 100%, the B, we scored the owner's identity out of 10 right now today. Out of 10, in the context of being a person who will attract £2 million, what's your number in your life? And it's usually about 2 out of 10. Multiplied by out of 10, the do. Well, they usually know their business, their industry quite well. That might be a 6 or a 7. So 2 times 7 is 14. Your have is 100. That's the coaching gap. So the issue is not usually around knowledge in the trade. It's about you as a person, because you have to look in the mirror, and this is where coaching helps a lot. Your business will only scale to the level of your identity. And there's a great book, Marshall Goldsmith, what got you to here generally won't get you to there. You have to be open to change and growth. And I'd suggest constructive pressure, which a coach can bring. The market pressure is often not constructive, but have people alongside you to walk with you, because you can move faster on your own, but you'll go further together.
Yep.
And it's a move from, I've learned this myself, move from me to we.
Yes. And that's a big journey.
Yes.
That's a huge, continuous learning journey.
Yes. And I learn more about myself by coaching others. So teaching is a great way to learn and grow.
So in terms of that be-do model, it's like that. So you start with the awareness of where you are and what's the gap. And he's saying that you then try and apply that into the gaps in your employees or your associates.
Yeah, so a typical one, in order to, I need to build a £2 million business, I'll need 20 people. What will your business look like when it's finished? 20 people. Well, I'm not much looking at you now. You've got the business you deserve. So what kind of person are you going to need to grow into to attract quality people? What are some of the things you're going to have to learn about? Some psychology, some how people make decisions. A massive one is emotional intelligence. So what are some of the skills on the iceberg, skills I'm going to need to learn? Delegation, situational leadership, emotional intelligence, behavior, understanding people's behavior, how people make decisions, for example. You can't, very hard to do that on your own. It'll take you 5 times as long as having a coach, a mentor, a team of advisors around you.
So for me, the model that I remember hearing about some years back was the Mastermind Model, where you get groups of people around you who you can trust. And that's a big word, trust.
Yes.
You can share life with, or you can speak in a focused way. People who are not necessarily friends, but who are informed, educated, and willing to invest in others.
Yes.
And for you and I know that you can speak into each other's life on a basis of where is your skills and knowledge that can align or fill some of the gaps that I have, or point me in a direction.
Yes.
And so that then I think what you're saying is would inform the actions that you take. So come back to your employees. Well, how am I resourcing my employees to be mentally resilient or financial well-being? If I've never considered that for myself, I can't consider that for anybody else.
I think that's very true. I think it being authentic as a leader is really, really important. So it's that don't do as I say, do as I do. So when I talk to clients about having a dream board, I've got one up here.
Yep.
My friend David, who you know well, has a dream board in an A4 book that he carries around with him. And many of those things in his dream book have become a reality. Are you exercising? So for me, I go cycling every morning. learning new skills. So I'm learning to play the guitar more with enthusiasm and skill. So you as a leader, what are you doing that you're asking your team to do? There's a great book, The Miracle Morning. It's a great book around habits.
Hal Elroyd, I think it was.
Yes, and Atomic Habits as well. They're great. So how you set your day up. So I read, reflect, play music, run. I'm on a webinar. So by 9 o'clock comes, I'm bomb proof.
Yep.
And I really am. And I'm focusing on my 90-day plan. I know why I'm doing it because there's my vision board, and that keeps me going. And I think a difficult one for me coming in, I came from a transactional background of finance, accountancy, qualified accountant, Adidas, Deloitte, That's kind of the hardware in business. The software is the people. So it's understanding people's beliefs, because we're all created uniquely. So you have a real calling in your life, and there's a gap between where you are today and where you want to get to, and we call that interference. So it's another way to look at that is a script. Every day of your life, there's a script been laid down subconsciously of who you think you are, what you can do and what you can't do. So we then help you look at beliefs. Your beliefs you have are affecting what you do. So I used to think the sales were the Antichrist because I came from finance. But I reflected the other week, and I realised I've sold over £1 million of coaching in my journey. Just maybe sales isn't so bad, and I'm quite good at it. So it's hard to do yourself.
Yeah.
But if you have a daily habit where you reflect at the end of the day, what triggered me today? What made me angry? What made me happy? Well, what's behind that? The good thing about beliefs, once you become aware of limiting beliefs we all have that hold you back, you can then address them and you become free. Literally, it's freedom. And there's a lot of businesses owners are held back by what someone at school told them about themselves. You'll never be good at this or that, or a teacher or a sibling or a bad experience in life. So that's where having outside help can really help you become more resourceful with the software in your life.
That's we seem to be circling around this idea of others and others and people in your life, and people speaking into your life, and the attitudes around that, learning, sharing, creating.
I think in today's world as well, especially for young folk, everyone has an opinion nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you learn by making mistakes to discern what's an opinion and what's wisdom being spoken into your life. And I don't think there's a shortcut for that. So
are you saying that I'm sorry, you just have to go out there and fall over every time? And
but the key falling over, I'm now going to fall over to become somebody worth 2 million. And I've got 3 of us at the moment. I'm going to have to take some knocks. If you don't want to do that, have a nice steady job. Don't take the entrepreneur route. 30% of people I meet, I advise them to go and get a job. You're going to get the knocks. That's where you grow. And we will all have had people who promised X, Y, Z, especially in the world of marketing, but didn't deliver. Mm-hmm. And we live in this little bubble, this ideal bubble, many of us, but it's not. The world of business is very efficient. It will bring you face to face with yourself. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, the good news is you can change it. Really hard to do by yourself. You get some help. And I think that's one of the key reasons and why you do what you do is that you actually love helping people. Yes, and I have a coach every week, Richard, who's been great. Yeah. Sometimes tells me things I don't want to hear, but helps me grow. And as long as we like you said, that trust is so important. And if you take risks, but within the boundaries, and then take time to reflect every day. What am I learning? What am I growing? What am I struggling with? And the things if you look back, not I haven't got to where I want to go, but look how far I've come. Things I used to worry about, just easy now, because I've been through those 4 levels of learning.
So just expand a little bit on the take risk bit. What does that mean in terms of, so your organization is now worth 2 million, 50 million, whatever it is, whatever the figure is. The question then is, what does risk look like? Or what's some of the principles of risk taking that you would say to people?
Well, risk taking is looking at your desired outcome, what I want to do, and the universe isn't delivering that to you. And in order to do that, I'm going to have your business is going to have to step out of its comfort zone. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. So most businesses are doing 1 year 10 or 15 times. They're getting by. But in order to do that, there's no guaranteed outcome. So it's best to have folk around you who can help you evaluate risk.
Where would I find these people? How do I? It's the how bit I'm trying to get to. How do I, Andrew? I've got £200 in my bank account, or 2 million. The figure doesn't actually matter because the figure will always be a figure. But
yes.
It's the level of risk that I want to take with my either £200 or my 2 million.
So it's quite a biblical one. Before you embark on any endeavor, count the cost. Run your teacup sessions. Am I prepared to invest, borrow £100, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 to get to that? And people with an employee mindset tend to look at things as an expenditure. It's going to cost me. Entrepreneurs look at opportunity as an investment opportunity, but it's calculated. It happens early on in the film Gladiator, where the cavalry are lining up in the woods and the Germanics are there, and a couple of the guys are going wobbly, and Russell Crowe says, "Yeah, the risk is acceptable."
Yeah. Charge.
It's good having little scenarios from films and things.
That's very good. I like that. So
it really helps. But somebody's got to call it.
Yeah.
And you're the leader. And look at the D-Day landings. Talk about risk.
Yes.
And they waited, the weather changed, and then he said, "Let's go."
Let's go for it. Yeah.
After a national day of prayer, incidentally.
Yeah.
But that's what it's Churchill kept going. He made a lot of mistakes, but he kept going when nobody else was.
Yeah.
And that's where that resilience, determination, persistence.
Yeah.
Persistence. Entrepreneurs will find a way how to do it, no matter how dark it looks. And it doesn't get more dark than 1940. People who have will give up. And because for you to grow, anything to grow, pressure's got to be on, but healthy pressure. So as a leader, you've got to learn how to, with your people, and they're all different. Sometimes they'll need supporting, and sometimes they'll need challenging. But if you're supporting and you're challenging them all the time, they'll leave. So you've got to learn that emotional intelligence, how to grow. It's like growing plants, growing a garden, grow your people, help them push through the difficult times. But what we don't want is what I call textbook heroes. Guys and gals who've read all the books and never actually run anything or taken any risk. So have people around you who've taken some knocks, but not just the knocks. What lessons have they learned from that? The value is what lesson have I learned from my past?
So these people that you'll be looking for or attracting would be people who are able to articulate the learning and the reflection.
Yes. Yeah, this is a situation. This is what I learned. Yeah. This is what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes you don't need people who've been through the mill. I was talking to a top marketing agency in Leeds yesterday. We were joking. Average age, I think the number one in the UK last year, and average age 27. So where you need new skill set, e.g. for me, social media, he said average age in my social media team's 20. So you don't necessarily need people who've been beaten up in life. Sometimes you need people with new skills into a new world. We're looking at now, the world of cryptocurrency is going to be...
Yes, it's massive potential.
And I also think a good awareness tool for listeners, Johnson, is that product innovation curve, understanding where is this product in our business, in the marketplace? Is it early adopter? Is it going to have momentum? Is it tailing off? And I think innovation is going to be even more prevalent and important in the years to come. It's a key part of competitive advantage. So we all have to keep reinventing ourselves.
Yeah.
So it was horrendous for me when the internet came in. This is how old I am, and everything I was selling became freely available on the internet. I'm learning, and it's
you weren't selling Encyclopedia Britannica at the time.
We sell information, ideas, things. So, and when COVID hit, again, I'm part of quite a big team. We were able to come together and put out in the March. We saw this as 5 phases, and that helped clients stop panicking and ourselves.
Yes.
And to manage it through. So we're following a system, a process, a way of learning.
So what we've been talking about to date is mental processes, it's logic, it's a bit of psychology, self-discovery, risk-taking. Speak to me about resilience in terms of your own spiritual journey, and how does that align with the business world? How does that fit in
with my spiritual journey? Well, with Adam and Eve, Adam was a gardener, so he was working early on. I think for me, people are mind, body, and spirit, and certainly spirit was a really undeveloped part of me. So I live very much in the world. It's about what you do. There's very little acknowledgement of the be. So it gave me a depth and a resilience. And following, for me, Christian principles absolutely align with business. Going the extra mile, servant leadership. It's all about them, not about me.
Yeah.
Looking after the poor, the disadvantaged. It's very interesting in the Jewish community back in the day, and it may still be the case, that every 7 years, all debts in the community were cancelled. And every 50 years, it was even bigger. Yes. So what a very great idea for a community. So the idea of people being in lifelong debt that's just amazing. Yeah. And for me, part of my vision and moving forward is, if you make your business not about you, but something bigger than your house, and you're helping others and making a difference in the world, that helps me enormously get through things, for sure. And it gives me a depth and roots. And I've been through a lot of storms, some of which you know, and having good people around me, and a values system to anchor on. Yeah. So for me, sometimes I only become aware of a value when there's a crisis. So in my .com days, there was an opportunity to, and I was short of cash, but I've been put onto this NASDAQ board. There's an opportunity to sell, make £100,000. And I was the finance guy, but because it was against the rules, I wouldn't do it. So I walked away from 100 grand when I had a young family.
And that's where it's the testing that brings out the values that you hold, and the decisions that you make along the way, which are not mental, but the spirit. And
it's like there's a moral dilemma often in business. Yeah. Especially if you're under pressure to hit targets, hit numbers, finance, manipulate results. and you look at all the chaos and the breakdown of the financial system. So I've been without, and I've been with a lot, and part of my journey is to help people steer through that.
Yeah.
Because without going too far off, but having too much money can cause a lot of problems in your personal life. And you see it with the crash in 2008, the greed, the financial institutions around the world, and people lose sense of what it's all about. So for me, I'm aiming to be a person of value, where I add value to people as much as I can. But I am a lifelong work in progress, that's for sure. But I'm happy to help anybody anytime.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Andrew, it's been a real pleasure, as always. And I know you carry a lot of wisdom within the scars that you've got. And the two go together.
I like that.
I certainly would say to anybody, to seek you out. And on that note, where would people find you, Andrew?
On LinkedIn, Andrew Cussons, Cussons. For those older ones, you might remember Imperial Leather. It's spelled like Cussons. Oh, Jemima's laid another one. So I'm showing my age now. Yeah. And talking of dreams, in 2015, I had a picture of South Africa, Cape Town, on my dream board. In 2020, I didn't know anyone in South Africa. I flew into Cape Town airport. I met this girl online on a Christian dating site. And as I came off the plane onto the moving pathway, the first picture up on the wall in the airport, exactly the same picture that had been on my wall for 5 years. So be careful what you put
on your dream board.
And get specific. When I had a dream years ago to sell a business for £1 million. And I said for $1 million, and I sold it did a buyout and turnaround, sold it for $1 million. It was $1 million. So last tip, get specific on your goals. Thank you, John. It's been a real pleasure. It's great to see you.
All right. We'll speak again soon, Andrew.
Okay. God bless.
Cheers for now.